If you're hearing this on Nightmare Crypt, understand something first. I didn't come here to entertain you. I'm saying this because whatever happened to me is still happening, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to pretend it isn't. If you've ever worked nights alone, if you've ever been responsible for keeping people safe with nothing but routine and trust in systems older than you, listen carefully. And if this kind of real, grounded horror is what you came for, subscribe now, because this is the last place stories like this ever get told straight. I'm writing this because the sound won't stop. It's not loud. That's the worst part. It's subtle enough that I keep thinking I imagined it. A single deliberate noise, metal on metal, followed by silence long enough to make me doubt myself. Then it happens again. I've already checked everything that could reasonably explain it. That's why this is a confession, not a question. Something irreversible happened out there by the tracks. I didn't understand it at the time, and I don't think I was meant to. All I know is that once you see the signal change when no train is coming, you never really trust stillness again. If you're reading this and you work near rail lines, maintenance, logistics, night security, stop for a second. Ask yourself when the last time was that you actually saw the system working, not just assumed it was. Because that's how it starts. Assumption. I assumed I was alone. I took the signalman job because no one else wanted it. The posting was buried on a regional transit board, the kind you only find if you're desperate or stubborn. Overnight rail monitoring, rural stretch, 12-hour shifts, minimal supervision. Decent pay if you didn't ask why the turnover rate was so high. The signal box sat about 3 miles outside a dying Midwestern town whose main street still had Christmas lights up in March. The building itself was older than every safety regulation currently posted inside it. Concrete base, rusted ladder, narrow windows that never quite closed all the way. When the wind blew, the place breathed. My job was simple on paper. Monitor track signals, log any anomalies, manually intervene if the automated system flagged something abnormal. 99% of the time, nothing happened. Freight trains passed on schedule. Lights stayed green or red when they were supposed to. I drank bad coffee and counted the minutes. The first strange thing was the smell. Around 2:10 a.m., every night there was a faint electrical burn smell, like overheated wires or ozone after a lightning strike. It never triggered an alarm. I chalked it up to aging equipment. Then there were the sounds. Not footsteps, not voices, just movement. A click from the far end of the track line, like someone tapping a wrench once and stopping. Always once, always followed by long silence. I logged it twice. Management never responded. I told myself old infrastructure makes noise. That's what everyone says. The first signal change happened on my 9th shift. No scheduled trains. Clear weather. No alerts. The light dropped from green to red on track C without any system prompt. No automated log. No reason. I stared at the panel for a full minute before checking the cameras. The feed was grainy but functional. Empty tracks, no obstruction, no personnel. Then the signal flipped back to green. I laughed, actually laughed, wrote it off as a glitch and kept going. That night I didn't sleep when I got home. I kept thinking about how clean the transition was. No flicker, no hesitation. Perfect timing. The second time I heard the sound first. Metal, distant, intentional. Then the signal changed. I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. I watched the monitor, waiting for something. Anything to explain it. That's when I noticed the timestamp was wrong. The camera feed said it was 5 minutes ahead of real time. I refreshed it. It corrected itself. I didn't log that part. After that, the sounds started coming closer. Still subtle. Still singular. Always metal. Always followed by silence that felt attentive. I started checking the door locks obsessively. Started leaving the radio on even when there was nothing to hear. By the 3rd week, I realized something was wrong with the way the signals behaved around me. They didn't change when I looked directly at them. They changed when I wasn't. The night I lost control, the radio went dead at 3:17 a.m. No static, just silence. Then the click happened directly beneath the signal box. I froze, not panic, something worse. The certainty that moving would make it real. The signal for track C switched to red. A train was coming, unscheduled, no alert, no warning. I scrambled for the manual override, hands shaking so badly I dropped the key. The camera showed headlights in the distance, bearing down fast. And then I saw it. Someone standing beside the track, not signaling, just standing there facing the train, perfectly still. The signal stayed red. The train didn't slow. That's when I understood. I wasn't controlling the system anymore. I was just watching it happen. I don't remember screaming, but my throat was raw afterward. The impact wasn't loud like you'd expect. It was a heavy, final sound, metal yielding to inevitability. The signal turned green immediately after. The figure was gone. No debris, no alarms, no record. The train passed like nothing had happened. I was still alive. That's the cruelest part. I quit the next morning. Didn't explain. Didn't look back. But the sound followed me home. One click. Silence. If you ever see a signal change when it shouldn't, don't assume it's broken. Sometimes it's just being used. I didn't tell anyone about the figure by the tracks. Not the supervisor who called 3 times asking why I'd abandoned my post. Not the state investigator who left a voicemail about an unscheduled deceleration event logged by a freight company 2 counties over. Not even my brother, who kept asking why I'd started sleeping with the lights on like a kid afraid of the dark. I told everyone the same thing. I was burnt out. Night shifts mess with your head. Old equipment fails. Nothing dramatic. That was a lie, but it was a believable one, and that mattered more than the truth. The truth was this. Once I left the signal box, the world didn't go back to normal. It just pretended harder. The first night home, I woke up at 3:17 a.m., on the dot. No nightmare, no noise, just awake, heart already racing like my body had beaten my mind to it. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the apartment settle. Pipes ticking, distant traffic, normal sounds. Then I heard it. A single precise click. It came from the direction of my front door. I sat up slowly, holding my breath. My place was small, 1 bedroom, cheap construction, thin walls. If someone was inside, there would have been more noise. Footsteps, shifting weight. Nothing followed, just silence so deep it felt intentional. I checked every lock, every window. Everything was secure. I didn't sleep again. The next few days blurred together. I stopped drinking coffee because it made my hands shake too much. I started walking everywhere, avoiding buses, avoiding trains, avoiding anything that ran on a schedule I couldn't see. That's when I noticed the pedestrian signals. I'd stand at a crosswalk, waiting for the white walk sign, and it wouldn't change. Cars piled up, drivers honked. Someone would eventually jaywalk, triggering the system. Every time that happened, I heard the click, always just before the signal changed. I started testing it, standing farther back, turning my head away at the last second. The signal would change when I wasn't looking. Exactly like before, I was being excluded. The panic hit in a grocery store parking lot. It was raining hard enough to blur the lines on the asphalt, and I was already on edge because the automatic doors hesitated before opening, like they were deciding whether I was allowed in. As I loaded my trunk, I heard the click, clear as day, right behind me. I spun around, nothing. But every car alarm in the lot went off at once. Not staggered, not cascading, all at the same time. I dropped to the ground, hands over my head, convinced something was about to explode. People screamed. Someone shouted to call the cops. Then, just as suddenly, the alarms stopped. Silence. No one else mentioned the click. No one looked confused enough. I realized then that whatever this was, it wasn't announcing itself to everyone. Just me. I left the cart where it was and drove home shaking so badly I had to pull over twice. It happened in my bathroom. I was brushing my teeth, staring at my own reflection like it might explain something. I looked exhausted, hollow, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. The light flickered. Just once. Then I saw movement behind me in the mirror. Not a figure, not a shape, just the suggestion of someone standing too close. I didn't turn around, I already knew better. The click came from inside the walls. That's when I understood the dread wasn't about being watched. It was about being positioned. Like something was lining things up around me, making small adjustments, waiting for the right configuration. I stood there until my gums bled and the taste of metal filled my mouth, afraid that if I moved, something else would move too. I tried to leave town. No plan, just distance. At the bus station, the departure board glitched, letters flipping rapidly, destinations overlapping. My route disappeared entirely. The click echoed through the terminal. A train horn sounded somewhere nearby, long and low. I felt it then, deep, cold certainty that my options weren't gone, they'd already been chosen. I sat down and waited for a bus that never came, surrounded by people who seemed perfectly content with delays that made no sense. The system was working, just not for us. The final event happened last night. I was asleep when the click jolted me awake. This time it wasn't distant, it was inside my head. I bolted upright, ears ringing, heart pounding so hard I thought I was having a stroke. The room was dark, but I could see the glow of my phone on the nightstand. 3:17 a.m. A notification flashed across the screen. No app icon, no sender. I didn't touch the phone, I didn't breathe. From outside I heard it, the low rumble of something heavy moving fast, too fast for where I live. There are no tracks near my apartment. There shouldn't be. The walls vibrated, the lights dimmed. Somewhere below me, metal screamed against metal. Then silence. The phone screen went black. I'm alive, again. That's the part I don't understand. I'm telling this now because the intervals are getting shorter. Because the click doesn't always wait for me to look away anymore. Because sometimes I catch signals changing in reflections, in glass, in the corners of my eyes. If you work with systems that move people, trains, traffic, infrastructure, pay attention to the moments you don't see, the assumptions, and if you ever hear a single deliberate sound followed by silence that feels like it's waiting for you to notice, don't. Because once it knows you're paying attention, it starts positioning you too. And systems don't care who survives, only that everything stays on schedule.